Good evening, Timberlane, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Timberlane Budget Committee for November 21st. And we'll do the roll call, please, Carrie.
All right, Sabrina Alberg.
Here.
Christia Claire. Catherine Consalvo.
Here.
Sierra Dulce.
Here.
Julie Hammond. Liz Costa.
Here.
Michael Mascola.
Here.
Sue Sherman.
Here.
Karen White. Mark Sherwood.
So we do have a quorum to open this meeting, so let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we've got some minutes here to look at. The meeting minutes of November 9th, which was our last regular meeting. Did you find those? And I'll accept a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, minutes from November 9th.
Sierra makes the motion. Second, somebody, please?
I'll
Mike-
second it.
Mike makes a second. Any changes, corrections, additions?
These are gonna be our last notes from you.
Tell me they're great. Thank you.
Hearing no additions or corrections, all in favor? 5, opposed, abstain, 1, 5-0, 1-3. Any correspondence that anyone's received? Anything from you, Justin, that came into the office? I know a few of you have been probably getting Facebook messages, I certainly have, regarding our tax bills. Each community is a little different, but this is the bill that we told everybody they'd see their increase, because they're gonna make it up from the June bill to now, so, yep. That's what happened. So here we are, looking at a budget, for the following school year. Any delegations and individuals? I don't see anyone. If not, any discussion from our last meeting reviews that we saw, the budgets that we saw last time? Anyone have questions they want to pose or things they are still thinking about from last meeting?
Not me.
I've been thinking about something, but it's like the past few meetings. Going back to what Michael said about the athletics money and that the program where we invite people back. And then I was thinking a lot about the band and the fact that they don't have uniforms that are less than 3 decades old. I don't know. I'm grappling with where the money, this small amounts of money that we do have, where it could go. And I just feel like band into those uniforms. I can't stop thinking about it. Having 27-year-old uniforms that are like put together with duct tape heading down to Florida, and their parents are seeing them in the same uniforms. There just seems to be, I keep thinking about what you said, Michael, about the money for the sports banquet, and I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where I'm landing, but I'm feeling like band and where we put our money. We just and having the tax bills, and everybody's talking on Facebook, like there's a lot landing on us, and I'm sitting here like, whoa, this is a really big responsibility.
That's right.
I don't know. I don't know where I'm landing. I just needed to say that.
May I throw
Sure.
something on top of it?
Sure.
So I would hope because this committee can't find every single line item that has a couple thousand here, a couple of thousand there. So I would hope through our administration team, they help curb when they see things that what Sierra was kind of mentioning, right? So if we're going to spend a lot of money to service a couple of people for a couple of hours versus buying uniforms that can last 30 years for hundreds of kids, I hope we keep in mind that as we go to spend this money, even if we don't see it, we being this board right now, you just be frugal, say, you know something, that's really, I know we put a request in, but it's not a good use of money if we had to cut somewhere. So you're gonna be handing all this money and you're gonna be saying like, let's go to dinner and let's go buy some uniforms. We may not pick on it, but I'm hoping administration looks at it and says, you know something, that's a bad idea, let's hold off on doing that.
We appreciate that trust and confidence to be able to do just that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't wanna micromanage and go lie and say, you know something, you can have a hamburger but not a cheeseburger. I'm not doing that. Because Maria and her team and yourself, you see these numbers a lot more frequently. And so when the request comes in from wherever they might be coming from, you just scrutinize them and say, you know something, in tough times, where can we say that is not completely necessary? We could live without that. And so I'm looking for things, just what Sierra said, if I can, I'm gonna go pick on a dinner that lasts 2 hours, the same money that would be spent on so many uniforms that can last 20 years, it's a no-brainer for me. I would put it for the long term.
That's what I was trying to say, but you're way more eloquent
Yeah.
than I.
I think as we get down to the end here,
Right.
we might wanna consider going back to the administration. That's certainly within our power. We're not a rubber stamp organization here. And where I wouldn't necessarily say where they should save the money, but those are hard things that might have to happen. Not that that hasn't already happened, because when they're bringing their budgets forward, and I'm speaking for Maria and the whole administrative team, they've already kind of washed this a little bit and said, wait a minute, because there's bigger things to play here. There's teacher contracts, there's costs that we cannot control. We've discussed that a lot of time. There's not much wiggle room in this budget for us to ask them to tighten their belt with. So it's some hard things. So I appreciate your comments, Sarah, that you're realizing that, and Mike realizes that because he's been here for a long time. Anything else about the budgets we heard or saw last week, or anything in addition before we move on to tonight? If not, then I'll move on to the administrative report. Justin?
Oh, thank you so much, Sue. Two things I just wanted to key folks in on from the last school board meeting that I thought were important. There was a presentation about elementary phonics, and it was just a really good example of kind of having teacher leaders in a district and how that stuff gets passed down to classrooms. And there were some classroom teachers there to kind of talk through and show people kind of what that looks like application-wise in the classroom. So seeing kids actually engaging with the materials and the learning. So it's a pretty quick segment, maybe 15, 18 minutes, but certainly worthwhile in terms of if you want a good window in terms of what actually happens in a classroom from top to bottom and how that stuff kind of gets decided about what is happening and which program is selected. It's certainly a good way to spend some time. The other thing that was announced at last school board meeting that I'd like to also do here is to let the budget committee know that we reached a tentative agreement with the TTA in terms of a 3-year agreement. That agreement will be going to the school board on December 7th for ratification, and it was overwhelmingly passed by the TTA membership last week. So from our perspective, I think it does a really good job of retaining some of the expertise in Timberlane. It's going to allow us to hire in some historically challenging positions, maybe a little bit better than we were in the past. And it also continues just to build partnerships between the board, the admin team, and the people doing the work in the classrooms with the teachers. There was also a New Hampshire Superior Court decision yesterday that Marie's gonna talk a little bit more through in terms of how it deals with adequacy and the potential impacts there. But it also did something secondarily that was also just as maybe as equally as important, is it allowed SWEP to be named unconstitutional. And if you're not familiar with SWEP, it's really the statewide property tax. They're raised at the local level. And what wealthier communities have been able to do in the past is retain those funds. And what this decision maybe compels them to do is have it more reorganized and redistributed at the state level. So it's actually a statewide tax and doesn't stay with those local communities. So that's a big impact. I know Marie wants to speak as well about the adequacy potential impact there.
Yeah, so really the news, I actually want to read it. New Hampshire Superior Court ruled that the current school funding amount of base adequacy, which is right now $4,100 per student, is unconstitutional because it does not reflect the true cost of obligation imposed on local school district by the state. The court said that the true cost of adequate education is $7,356 per student per year, and according to the court, likely much higher than that.
Likely.
It's in quotations, so likely much higher than that, which it is actually. We have our per student cost in our district is closer to $20,000. So the base of adequacy, the increase that they are proposing for the base of adequacy aid in our district will be about $10 million next to adequacy aid. So the discussion is where is the state gonna raise those funds from, which we all know will probably come from our pockets as well. So
I have a question, just for clarification. So the model right now is the towns collect the tax and it stays local. The model they wanna go to is they collect it and the state will redistribute it?
no, so right now the SWEP tax is collected through the towns, so that we taxpayers pay into it, the town collects it, and they send it to the school district. What happens is in the big towns like Portsmouth, Bedford, the big towns, they have excess tax at the end of the years because the wealthy communities, they have excess tax that they are allowed to carry over the years.
You're calling some of those towns wealthy?
Well, they have a lot of, like Portsmouth.
Tax base,
They have, right,
okay,
yeah, tax based.
okay, got it.
Well, so what happens is, right now they're allowed to keep it and to carry it over the year. So what the state is proposing is to say, okay, no, those towns that have excess tax would not be able to hold it. They will have to give it back to the state to be redistributed within all the.
So the towns you just mentioned, would it be the ones that have an excess amount? I would think there'd be a group of communities rallying to say, no, we don't want this to pass.
Of course,
They were part of the other side of
Yeah.
the lawsuit.
of course.
So do you have anything to share as far as timeline or?
Just that it was a Superior Court decision, it was issued on the 20th, and I believe there's 30 days to appeal.
The state has 30 days
And I
to
would
appeal.
imagine that there will be some appeals as people are kind of talking through things. But this is tied to the Claremont decision from the 90s, and it's just the ongoing conversation in New Hampshire in terms of how public education is funded. But a large decision that has potential ramifications for all.
I just asked Sue if they could keep this board informed of what our lovely court system is doing.
Yeah, we will share any news that we receive as they come.
So, and just the last thing, there's it's a strange kind of calendar for us. So when we come back from the current break we have for the holiday, we have 4 solid weeks with staff and kids. So just encourage everyone to come back refreshed and finish the old end of the year strong.
November's the short month and then December gets a little longer. Speaking from a classroom perspective. Okay, thank you. I have nothing from the chair to report. Anybody been at anything they want to talk about? Any budget committee members been at anything?
I went to the strategic plan meeting, second one. Sorry, I didn't report out on the first one. They voted leadership and had a nice discussion about moving forward, what things that they'd like to put forth in front of the board and then in front of us, but I'm not gonna say anything because I'm not really allowed yet, I don't think. Well, there are some things, I don't know, like down the pike, what big projects they're looking at, so.
So Liz sits on the strategic plan committee as a member from the community. But certainly wears a couple of hats here. Report out to us how those meetings are going, things that she sees coming up. Anybody else, anything going on? If not, then we'll move on. We've got some new business. Tonight, we're gonna hear Kelly Brooks with a special ed budget. So Kelly, if you're ready, we're ready for you.
The biggest budget drivers for special ed are contracted service lines, and that's because we can't find people in like psychologists, OT, PT, those kind of higher level to sign on with us for what we offer for pay. So if we have to contract people, that's like double plus what we're going to have to pay. So those are the pieces that are going to drive up the budget. We've done really well with implementing programs. We're starting that. We're starting to see some really good things, but we still have to have those people to evaluate our students and what we're paying. We can't get them. We are heavy this year with contracted people for many positions this year. Next year, we're anticipating that that's going to continue. My fingers are crossed that if the TTA agreement goes, that I won't maybe have to have all of this, right? Because this is predicting that maybe it won't be passed by the budget or by the voters. But we still can't find people, and it's just like special educators. I can't find special educators, and I'm not really hopeful that even if we raise what we pay, that we're going to find people, because we are very competitive with each other, and being on the mass line does not help you guys at all. So, but those are the biggest pieces. Like I said, we are reducing some of our costs by professional development or different programs and stuff like that. It's going to take a little while for that to show, but I'm pretty happy with the staff to say that we've had different things that have been implemented this year, which will continue next year. Is there any questions? Yep.
Not so much what is the salary, but being that it's hard to find these professionals and because of our location next to the Mass border, how far off are we for what we offer and what they might get if they jumped over the border? What kind of spread would you guess?
I would guess that our like an OT is probably in Mass is probably going to make 85. And we have one that I looked at the other day that was 47. You could go to a clinic, right? You could go to a clinic anywhere and make a higher amount, but people want to be in education, so they're willing to. But even the SAUs around you pay a considerable amount more. They're specialty areas, right?
Right.
And their master's level, have a lot of continuing ed that they have to do. So yeah.
So any OT, PT, speech path,
Yep, psychologists,
psychologists,
BCBA.
so those they would fall under, when they're hired, under our teacher agreement.
Yes.
Right? There's not a special contract for nurses, any what I consider almost medical necessary situations. So they all become part of the teacher union's contract.
So you're gonna talk about?
It's hard. So Kelly's got a pretty big variance here in what she had last year and what she's proposing for this year, due to these contracted services, that she cannot predict or say, yes, I'm gonna absolutely need to have all of those, or need more than what I've got currently, correct?
Right, and we have a large increase in referrals. We've got 20 in the past 2 weeks at the elementary level,
20 in the past 2 weeks at the
elementary
elementary level,
right?
and they need to service those kids and get,
We need to evaluate them
What's,
and when you pull those people out to evaluate, they can't do services and it's kind of that dance. So we're working really, really hard to do everything.
My memory has failed me. What is BCBA?
It's a behavior specialist, like,
Okay.
yeah.
questions?
So I'm looking at these increases. These are just the increases. 200, 225, and 605.
Right. Right.
Yay.
It's $1 million increase just in contracted services.
It's contracted services,
Right,
she's
right,
gotta
right.
plan those.
Again,
Right. We still have our other expenses, right? You know, tuition and those things. Some of them kind of are varying a little bit, but if I have to take what we need or what I can kind of predict we need, it's going to go up if we have to do contracted.
I'm sure this administration and the school district has thought of it, but they bumped up the salary of some of these positions. So we paid them more, but we didn't pay out the professional, the contractual services. So you save on the contractual, you pay more over here.
But back to its,
Because they're in the initial,
their contract,
yeah, okay, never mind,
they're
yes,
union members here, and
yes.
so they're under that contract, so you can't willy-nilly say, because she's OT, we're gonna pay her over here off the scale. That would not be proper.
No, no.
No,
And
no.
Could I add that despite that they're part of the same collective bargaining agreement, I'll reiterate what I had said in the admin report, that I think we made a lot of headway in terms of being able to hire positions that have been historically challenging in the tentative agreement that we have currently.
okay,
So those positions will come out in like March, right, when like the next hiring season happens?
They're out currently.
They are out currently,
Yeah.
okay.
And what Kelly has been attempting to do is when we can't fill them with people that we are staffing, seek them through agencies to fill our obligations.
Yeah, they've been ongoing on our Apple track, right?
I'm going on the Apple track, and the committee should also understand this is not a problem that's germane to Timberlane. I think it's exacerbated here for some of the contractual pieces that are in play here that may not be in other places, but these type of positions in terms of the clinicalness and education have been increasingly more difficult to find throughout the state.
Kelly's right, they can work in a therapy unit, and make
For
money.
Or telehealth. That's the other thing.
Telehealth.
We're losing people to remote. I can do
How
it
do you
over
do
the
OT or
computer.
PT telehealth? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Creative.
They model for them, they interact, they do, yep. So if I could stay at home and do it,
I see.
is one of the pieces that. So we're all in the same boat. Like Justin said, it's everywhere. Some of it doesn't even matter what you're paying. There aren't the people to fill the positions. So
Or to interview, or to,
or to interview, absolutely. Or they can't get licensed in New Hampshire. That's our other thing. They can get licensed in Mass, but not New Hampshire. So we've had 3 psychologists that can't get licensed in New Hampshire.
can I ask why?
Yeah.
It's something to do there. I'm not really sure what it is that is causing the problem. It could be one, it's to get through the process to do it. It's too long
Yeah, it's
to
a
get
process.
through. It's backed up. And it could be where they came from, the component that you have to be able to be issued it for New Hampshire. You're missing something. I could do it in Tennessee, but I can't do it here.
the licensing requirements aren't the same state to state to state. There's a few that are side by side, but. Yeah.
One little thing that's different. So yeah, that's the big piece of my budget, going up is those contracted, and we are mandated, we legally have to provide them,
Right,
so.
this is not our choice, this is, we have to, these children deserve these services that were required by law to provide that service, so it's contracted to somebody.
I don't know if this is the right time, but I'm confused. So like this decision happening with the Superior Court, they have 30 days to appeal right now. Because I'm thinking this money, if these wealthier towns that have more of a tax base, if this money ends up coming back and gets redistributed throughout the state, like when would that happen? That's not, if that happens, it's not gonna be for 3
Yeah.
years.
No, and
Right,
that's not gonna
like-
happen like that. So what happens is if they decide to do that, that most likely will go to fund the new amount
Right.
that they're proposing for the adequacy.
Okay.
None of that stuff should impact any decisions you make.
Right, I know, yeah.
It's just
yeah.
about what the
Just
horizon
thinking,
is
like-
looking like.
Yeah,
We need
yeah,
something to help us.
If it happens, we won't see that money until their fiscal 26 year.
Right.
if then,
If
right?
then, yeah,
Yeah.
because if they appeal it, it's just gonna be like
Slows it down some more.
10 years.
You know, and just to share with you all the efforts that we are kind of undertaking is that we are also having teachers and other folks kind of picking up extra work during the workday, and we're compensating them that way as well. So you've got some of these folks that are doing either working with more kids or picking up an additional class. So that's another way that we are filling kind of a vacancy with our own people. That's a little bit out of the box. In no means do we think it's a permanent solution or the best practice, but it is a way for us to kind of continue to meet some of those obligations as well, and also staff it with our own people that are part of the Timberlane community.
And you can compensate them.
And we can compensate them through memorandum of understandings with their associations.
Okay.
But that's another small tool that we've tried to execute this past year as well.
All right, any other questions specifically for Kelly and her budget? I mean, her budget is here, it's quite a few
Positions that I'm asking. You want me to go over those?
Do you have anything here you want to discuss? The positions, would you like to hear her talk about those positions? Yes, let's do that, Kelly, yeah.
So the first one, they're kind of the same thing. So our CODAs, which are OT assistants, and the SLPAs, which are speech assistants, we are very lucky to have them in our district. So that is really, really good. They've never had the same amount of hours or the same amount of days. So one building has 6.5 hours, another one has 7, somebody has 6, you have 183 days, you have 108 days, like they're all kind of over the place. So I actually asked if we could just put them at 183 days, same as paras, they can come to all of our professional development. Right now they can't, we pay them to come on that other day, but it's not in their contract. And then we're asking if they could just be 6.5 hours and not have this all over the place. It's too hard to figure out what to do. So I asked for that so that we're all on the same page. And then the other one is probably a bigger one. Do you have any questions about the CODAs or the SLPAs? Okay. The other one is to have a position that can do part of special ed in a school and the other part of Medicaid. So Medicaid is a big piece of what we generate for revenue. The law changed in 2020 to add some other components, and we have updates every year. It's getting bigger and bigger and less manageable for people to do when they only are working the school year. So the new position is kind of taking one of our positions and extending it year-round, so that during breaks in the summer and stuff, they can process Medicaid and do all of that. There's a lot that goes into Medicaid, from doctors to our billing company to licenses to everything in doing that. So that's why I'm asking to take a position that I have right now and just extend it to year-round.
So right now you have a senior administrator special education assistant, that's quite the title, but they're only X number of days?
We have an administrative assistant, so not the senior.
Okay.
An administrative assistant for special ed that has really kind of taken over the lead of it. Would like to expand it to year round so that they can continue that piece and do it through the summer. We do Medicaid in the summer and right now we're trying to catch up in August for what hasn't been done.
Questions about those positions? Any other questions about the budget? Things you saw in the budget?
Let me just back up. So are these positions on the sheet? Yes, under the new?
Under
They're
the
reflected.
existing position, under the Medicaid and the
I see it, coded.
bonus, yeah.
Got it, I see
Our
this.
building, so that's
Thank you.
16,000, and then the quotas and
SLPA.
SLP. Sorry, this acronym I can't. It's about $5,000. $1,000 for all of them.
See them there on the back of our worksheet that Harry's kept track of for us.
So it's about 21,000 in the increase.
Those positions.
And that will also clean up all the 6.5, 7.5, how many, bring everybody to a
3.5,
uniform standard.
yeah.
Right.
That's a good move.
And Medicaid is a revenue source for you. We could do more if we had someone that was, consistent in being able to do that.
I will argue that $16,000 it won't be an increase because we will definitely bring that revenue in Medicaid billing. So I will definitely stand up for that. And the quotas and PLAs, it's a payroll nightmare to have all of them at a different schedules. And like Kelly said, she's trying to put them on the same schedule as the paraeducators, so we will have consistency within our schedules. So.
Right. And add that professional development day in right now. That's a big day for us that we pay them now to come, but it's not in their contract. We get a lot accomplished on that one day. It's in March. And it's pretty important to have everybody paras professional and them should be there.
Yeah, they're also not affiliated, so it's a group of people. They don't belong to any of the unions. They're part of our non-affiliated employees. So I agree with Kelly that providing them the opportunities that all of our affiliated employees have is just the right thing to do.
I have another one.
Yeah.
For all your budget drivers for speech pathologists, school psychologists, et cetera, BCBA, these are all either federally or state mandated by law.
Yeah.
We have no
Children-
choice.
Yep, children have, those are areas of disability, speech, or behavior, which is linked to an emotional disorder. Those are all service providers to provide our assessments as well. They do all the testing. To identify the disability.
And if we had them here in-house, it would be great, but we don't at the moment, so we gotta find, we got a contract and that really ups the price.
Right.
Can I deviate and just ask a couple more?
Sure. Deviate away.
This is more for my general knowledge. Off the top of your head, if I said what percentage of our students receive some type of IEP?
We are getting close to 25% right now. If you take on the next level of 504, you're probably going to get to 30-something%.
Is Timberlane considered a magnet, like an attraction? So if somebody is moving to southern New Hampshire, would they say Timberlane, oh, good? Or, like, I'll give you an example. Our wrestling and our music has done very well. So if you get a wrestling kid, you might move to Timberlane. What would they do for special ed? How do
New
we,
Hampshire as a whole is very low for special education services.
would you say the what?
New Hampshire as a whole is poorly
As a
rated.
whole?
Yeah, is poorly rated for special education services, and even if you put us on the border of Mass to where what Mass does and what Mass provides.
Yeah, if you go over the border, Mass provides a lot.
So nobody's moving to New Hampshire and being like, this is the place right here that's gonna be able to take care of, whatever the situation is that the child has.
I disagree, but
I think at one time
back
Timberlane-
15 years ago, it was. You came here because.
So that's why I was asking, because I do
Because we
remember
had
a
in-house
long time
people.
ago,
Right.
I was hearing that Timberlane was an attraction.
It was, because we had our own staff and they're
There were
retired.
separate schools too in the elementary schools. There was like one school specialized
Okay.
in
Yeah.
So maybe
autism,
we're
one
shifting.
specialized, yes.
You lost people, you couldn't replace them, and that's happened all over the state. There's nobody to hire. And I
On
would,
top of what you said.
on top of, right, for us, we're right on that border.
So this is a double whammy. We've lost a lot of staff
They've retired.
and we're in New Hampshire.
Well, and you had programs that were robust and provided, and they kind of went away. And I wasn't here, I don't know where they went or what happened. And so now we're rebuilding them back up. It'll take time, but we definitely know that it's a need. But I think maybe you got really, really good, and so then you didn't think that there was a need for it. That is often what happens. But keep it. It's gonna flow. Keep it.
I think we've had, in my tenure here, about 20 to 25% of our population had IEPs or had special needs that we dealt with. I don't think that number has
It's
decreased.
not deviated
Yeah, see,
a
Liz has been
lot.
around for a while with both, but it's the staffing issue, and it's got to do with personal changes people's lives go through, and we did have a staff that retired. And that took huge hits in a lot of areas, but particularly in special ed, and then trying to find people. There ain't no replacing some of those people. You gotta start way again and build it up, so. We were one of the model communities that the state would
We're a
look to.
model community, but we also had a very strong autism program. When I sat on the board, there was an autism room suite in the middle school where I don't even know if it's still there. But there was a large discussion about that when maybe 3 superintendents were here ago. Mr. LaSalle, who made that happen, because there was a need, and then he created something in the high school so that it all flowed. And thank you for the BCBA room, thank you for the ABA room at Atkinson. And I hope to see that in other schools as well.
Right. We do have a self-contained program in our district that's in collaboration with NECC. So we are, getting our people trained and whatever. We come back to that same thing though, that we have to have contracted people.
I have a question, it might be kind of off, going back to where we had I'll use Pollard as an elementary school, right? Because Pollard did specialize in having the autism program, and my son from Danville went to Pollard for that specific reason. Having those centralized locations, does that help staff? Do you not need so much staff across the board? You don't need someone who can specialize in this? I don't know, I'm asking. You don't need someone who can specialize in this necessarily in Danville because the specialty is in Pollard. And, my son lives in Danville, but he's going to Pollard because he's autistic, and that's where our focus is. Does that help control what you need for staffing, where you don't have to spread them out so much, where you're gonna have, how, it was kind of how it was set up then. I don't know how it got there, but it existed then.
I think the thing is that there's more than maybe what used to be.
Mhm.
Maybe there was 7 kids in the program. There's more than that now. So you're leaving kids behind that still need that same level of service. So it's really about training and helping people to be able to keep them in their home school or recognize the kids that need to go out. So you can't put your ED over at Danville and at Pollard you don't have to worry about it, because there's a boatload at Pollard that have the same similar, they may not have risen to that level. So it's giving the training
It's just kind of
across.
too big.
Yep, and we're doing some things right now where we're trying to get it out to everybody, regular ed and special ed. So it's not, we aren't the only ones that have the knowledge of what to do. We're trying to give them the knowledge. I think it's overwhelming right now for people. Kids now are not the same when I, started teaching 31 years ago. Very, very different. And it's hard. And you have to be the master in special ed of everything. And that was always kind of the thing, but now teachers are having to be the master of everything as well. And so it's trying to keep up with that.
Hey, can I just make a comment?
Sure.
The 22 referrals you had, probably 15 of those students, those referrals will probably qualify for some type of special ed service. So that also puts the strain on your personnel there, and if they require the speech or the OT for executive functioning, language, whatever, sensory, that's huge. That's a huge hit, and if it's spread out amongst all 5 schools, you need to be a traveling salesman to deal with all of that, kind of.
That doesn't include the, I think, 6 referrals at charter schools that we're responsible to cover.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
in the state.
Forgot that part.
yeah.
Yep.
There's another little piece.
So now when we do that, do we have to go to them or do they come to us?
We
You
have to
go
go
to
to them. We contract out, or we have some of our people do go out to the schools.
Teleport.
Now, how do they receive those services from the charter school? Like if, say, someone gets on a IEP at Wyndham, right? How do they-
We evaluate them, we do the whole process.
And then if they need speech,
Then we
provide it?
contract, or we have our people go out. There are some that come to us, but yeah, we go out to them. So we have 4 charter schools right now that we have MOUs with, and we have a couple others that people are looking at to go to. So we are responsible for those.
Now, at charter schools, I don't know, this is kind of an off the cuff question. Like when some students can come and they can apply, they can ask to request to go to a different school, right? I wanna go to Salem High School, and you have to do your X, Y, and
It's a
Z's
big
to
meeting.
get there, right? Does that apply for the same with charter school, or can you just go to charter school and we're responsible on the other side?
I can answer that because when the Birches opened, a long time ago, I pulled my youngest daughter out from, she went from 3rd grade into 4th grade at the Birches, and she was there. All I had to do was withdraw her from Timberlane and put her there. She just happened to win the lottery to get in, but then middle of her 6th grade year, we pulled her back out and we put her back in the district because it just wasn't a good fit for her at that point in time.
So if a parent chooses to leave and go to, I'm using Wyndham
But
Academy,
it's a public
just,
school, charter school is a public school, and they do get funds from the state of New Hampshire to pay for her education. Does it still come from you guys too?
Charter schools receive only adequacy.
Yeah.
And they're free for people that live in New Hampshire, but they're also a parental choice schools.
so the parent
The
can
parent
just
and
choose,
student
but then,
initiates that decision.
but then it comes back to the district
We
to
remain-
cover special education.
We remain the fiscal agent in terms of the LEA responsibility for that child.
Feel like it should go the same way, like if you are just leaving, we still have a financial responsibility, but.
It's complicated. Not a. Anything else for Kelly before?
I'm good.
Okay, if there's nothing else for Kelly, then I will
Thank you, Kelly.
thanks Kelly. I will look for a motion to accept for review the special education budget at $8,082,216.40.
I'll make the motion to accept Kelly's proposed budget of $8,082,216 for review.
I'll second it.
Is that Sabrina?
Yeah.
Second by Sabrina. Any other comments or questions? If not, then I'll look for all in favor. That's done unanimous. Carrie? Thank you, Kelly, for your work. And now we're, unless anyone needs a break, we'll go on to the facilities budget. Mr. Inglesby's here, Carl is with his maintenance and facilities proposals. Good evening, Carl.
Good evening, everyone. A lot of things moving around this district this year. We've got new boilers everywhere, new lighting going in right now, so we're gonna see a lot of energy savings. I didn't capture all of them because I really wanna try to be conservative. I'd rather have money left over at the end of the year than not enough money to pay the electric bills and then have to figure out where we're gonna pay for them, so. My initial estimates on what we're gonna be decreasing is $145,000. That's oil, propane, natural gas and electric. A lot of our prices we renegotiated or went out to bid and got lower contract prices for a lot of that. And a lot of it is capturing what we're projecting to decrease our usage by with the new boilers, new lights and stuff like that. Information accesses, we were on a thing called School Dude, which I've been using since I signed up for this job 20 some odd years ago. It was a great program at the beginning. It's gone a little more expensive over the years and a lot less service as they've grown outside of the school. They've now got Facility Dude and basically we weren't getting the service and the cost was going up exorbitantly. There's a new player out there called Operations Hero that we witnessed in action and made the jump this year and saving us $13,000 a year. That does our computerized maintenance management system and it's also our online facility scheduling program as well. Replacement and repairs of equipment, increasing $92,490 due to the increasing multiple budget lines across my whole budget. It's just the cost of doing business. Maintenance is going up on a lot of the things that we're not replacing yet, but we're getting toward replacing them. So it's just costing us more to do business right now. Everything is more expensive out there. We also have 2 additional maintenance technicians, so we have a total of 5 now. So we're actually getting a lot more done, and we're spending more money getting that done as well. So, yeah. Does anybody have any questions? Would like to go over any of the lines?
I have a question about the numbers. Currently, your budget is $5,053,924. You're proposing a decrease, which is always lovely, of $5,052,490. How's that a variance of $1 million?
I think.
No,
That's a
1,400.
period. 1,000.
Oh, God. Never mind. I'm so used to seeing big numbers. Darn.
I had.
Just a reallocation of his budget.
Yeah.
Are we in good shape for boilers? Like, I know you mentioned that we changed a lot of boilers over the last couple of years.
So we have brand new boilers, so when I got here, we had new boilers at, fairly new boilers at Pollard that needed a lot of upkeep, and maintenance because of we took care of those. Then we installed new boilers at the middle school. We knew that we needed a new boiler up at Danville, so we redesigned that whole system so that they're redundant now. We went from 3 oil burn boilers to 2 propane boilers, high efficiency of course. And got rid of the oil tank, which is a good thing. And the high school has 3 brand new boilers that are doing their startup on December 4th. They're massive, they're taking the place of 8 Areco boilers. And we've been lucky that we had 3 or 4 boilers that were still online that were able to maintain the heat in the high school while we're installing these new ones, so that's been a positive. We lost the controls to that system last spring, so we've been running them in manual. until we get these new boilers online. Middle school, did I say middle school? Middle school's got new
Yeah.
boilers, Pollard, Danville. Sandown North has a fairly new boiler, and then one that's almost 20 years old, but it's in really good shape. And we're looking to change those over to propane and get rid of the oil up there as well. We can just do a boiler conversion. That's being proposed through CIP right now. And then Atkinson has, forgive me, it's either 4 or 5 Baderas fairly new boilers that are oil as well. And at some point, we're looking to change those over to propane as well to get rid of them. Sandown Central, they've got some seriously old boilers in that building, but I, as you know, we're not putting too much money into that building.
You're looking to change a lot over to propane because why?
Energy savings, more efficient fuel, better for the environment, and a number of everything.
Okay.
We can save, I think we're looking at saving almost, I think $15,000 or $20,000 a year at Sandown North if we change those to propane. It's just a better burning fuel, more efficient. Oh, let me rephrase that. If we don't change the boilers and we're just transferring to propane, they're not gonna be as efficient as the new ones. The new boilers we're putting in are natural gas or propane. They're 96% efficient versus the 80 on the old oil burners. And those old oil burners, just switching to propane, you're not gonna see that energy. I mean that.
Amount of savings.
Right, it's not gonna be a 96% efficient. It's gonna still be 80% efficient. It's just gonna be a better fuel, cheaper fuel.
Thanks for all the upgrades. For managing all the upgrades.
Thank you.
Carl, you're still using the CIP committee process,
Yes, ma'am.
is that true? And you still have a facilities committee, school board run, because the CIP committee is school board run too.
We have the facilities committee, the CIP committee, the construction committee.
All right, that was an
Budget committee.
extra committee, the school board appointed a construction committee,
Yes,
that's
ma'am,
not
to
a
help
standing
manage all
committee.
the construction that was being handled by the lease and by anything by EEI for the CIP projects.
What else? Energy committee, did that
We
get
haven't had it.
reinstated? No,
We had a couple when I first got here, but
but you wrapped that in facilities, right? Yeah.
Yeah. They got up so.
and CIP,
separate.
everything we're doing is trying to save energy on top of, EEI, their company name is Energy Efficiency Investment, so they're very keen on energy efficiency.
Questions or concerns? So this is reasonably, we'll say a flat budget, one of the few that,
Just out of curiosity, for the uniforms, how many employees is that, and is that a yearly amount?
We have about 45 employees. We were paying a lot more than we are now, due to they were renting the uniforms from a uniform company. They were ugly, nobody wore them, so we started doing some research. My facility supervisor, Sarah Vera, took it upon herself to open up an online store that people could pick the uniforms they want. I'm sorry, I'm in a t-shirt tonight, but this is one of the t-shirts. You can buy a Carhartt t-shirt, or we can purchase a Carhartt t-shirt. We have Nike polo shirts that it can be purchased, and we allow the custodians to pick out 5 shirts, any kind they like. We try to get them to buy a polo for like parent-teacher night or something like that, so they look nice when there's parents in the building. We also purchase a jacket or a sweatshirt for them so that they're warm when they're out shoveling. And we also have a stipend for them, and all that comes out of there. And it's actually saved us money.
they supply their own boots.
You have to supply your own, well, I'm sorry, we provide a stipend
Stipend for the-
to buy pants and boots or shoes for themselves, so. That's it.
That is contractual
Yeah.
agreement
That's in
through
there.
the union.
Yeah.
We have to provide that. It's in the union contract.
For the most part, everybody's happy with the uniforms and stuff.
You know, something that you're comfortable working with and you're safe working.
Yeah, it's great.
I have another one.
Sure.
Did you say you added 2 more staff?
Yes, sir.
Well, you want to add 2 more staff.
I added 2 more staff last year
So
in
that's
the
okay.
budget process.
Okay.
So we have 5 maintenance guys, we have an electrician, an HVAC technician, and 3 general maintenance people.
They're always out there busy. They're
And-
nonstop.
Yep, and we have a split shift maintenance guy, so he comes in around 10 o'clock and stays until 5, 6 o'clock at night. Or you know what I mean, 8 hours. And then we also have one that works a pure second shift. He comes in at 2 o'clock and stays till 10:30, so we can get a lot of work done in classroms and spaces
Yeah,
like
so
that.
where-
Quieter in the building.
Where are they though? Cause it's only one guy in how many buildings?
They're all over.
Okay, so it doesn't, okay.
Right, so we have 4 maintenance vans right now. Part of the budget is to replace one of them. We're actually gonna keep it and allow.
So from
that
10 to
other-
5, he's going from school to school.
Right.
Gotcha.
It's traveling.
In the
We
middle of the
have
night.
4 maintenance guys that serve 640,000 square feet of buildings.
Right, and driving around 4 different, I remember talking
Yeah,
about this last year.
And it takes 20 minutes for,
Right.
if he's got a call, if we have an emergency call in Danville or Sandown North, it takes 20 minutes to get there. So it's, that's, and if they're up there doing a job and they have lunch, if they get a call someplace else, it's an added, it's a lot. People are driving around everywhere.
Anything else for Carl?
What's the turf tank annual lease?
So we, last year we got into an agreement to purchase a turf tank, which is a line striper that's run by GPS. So instead of having
remember
4,
it.
Yeah.
instead of 4 people out there running strings and running the lines and painting, we now have one guy that's out there, sets up a GPS locator, tells it to paint, and it paints. Now, it would be nice if that guy could go do a bunch of other things, but right now we still have to watch it, cause sometimes the nozzle gets clogged, and if it gets clogged
So-
3/4 of the way through, or 1/4 of the way through the thing, and we don't notice.
I remember the tank because I had some questions about, you know,
Last year, we talked
cost.
about.
I don't remember ever hearing that it was gonna be $15,000 every year to continue to lease
Well,
the tank.
that
Cause
also,
now we're paying the guy to stand there and paying for the lease.
but we're not paying 4 guys to stand around
Yeah.
doing nothing, and that includes the paint for
includes
the
the paint.
paint, that
Okay.
includes the paint for the machine too, so.
That's good.
It's not a new machine every year, it's paint.
No, it's a paint, it's a.
Overall, you're still saying that's a win?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah,
It's-
we did the numbers last year when we were.
and it's amazing how far your fields were off, but when you put a GPS locator on there, you find out your one side of the football field was 6 feet longer than the other side of the football field. Or actually, it was soccer that was 6 feet off.
Give that to the visiting team.
Not the ends, the side. But yes, it's accurate within to 1/8 of a millimeter, I think, or some ridiculous number like that. We're afraid to use it on baseball.
1/8 of a millimeter.
It's tiny, it's minuscule.
I know, you wanna say 1/10 of a millimeter, right?
It's like,
Standard versus,
yeah,
Yeah.
apples.
we get it,
It's tiny.
tiny.
Microns.
Yeah.
Anything else for Carl? If not, I'll look for a motion to accept for review the maintenance facilities proposed budget at $5,052,490.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Catherine makes a motion, a second.
I'll second that.
Liz will second. Any other questions, concerns? And we're taking these for review. And if we have questions, we've got small meetings, we can always ask Carl to come back if you had a chance to look at his lengthy report as well.
I would like to extend an invitation for you to come see the high school boiler room at some point. It's pretty intense right now, seeing the 3 new ones and 4 old ones that are still in service over there. It'll definitely look a lot better when we get the 4 old ones out, but it's pretty impressive how they fit it all in there right now.
December 4th.
What's that?
December 4th?
Bring it on.
No, that's what you said,
December 4th, their startup.
yep.
You might not wanna be there then. That's gonna be a very busy place.
If that's something you'd like to set up please go through Maria. We're not just gonna willy-nilly and call Carl and interrupt his day and just show up at the school.
Yeah, if you're interested, shoot me an
It's
email.
not proper to do that.
But my
in
office is
person.
right next to the boiler room, so it's easy.
I'm sure we could find him, but. All right,
Thank you.
hearing nothing else, I will ask all in favor. Looks unanimous, carried. Thank you, Carl.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank you too, thank you. Dean, can we have a recess for 5 minutes, please? Thank you and welcome back to the Timberlane Budget Committee of November 21st, regular meeting. We are now down to the proposed budget. Maria is going to kind of walk us through where we're at this point. We've heard all the departments. We've seen their impacts, we've seen their proposals, so Maria has given us, it's a stapled packet that gives you the rundown on just about everything.
So in this preliminary proposed budget, I included everything that all of the directors and administrators have requested for this budget season, including all the positions, all the stipends, all the initiatives, all the furniture, everything that they have requested. So this encompasses all of those requests. We have a total increase of $3.1 million. That's a 3.6% increase over last year's voted budget. And in the first page, I kind of broke down all the variances so you can see what are the components of the variances. Basically, well, the largest, as we know, is the special education contracted services, which is $4 million just for that. The personnel increases, the salary increases, it's $600,000. As you know, this last couple of years, we have been replacing a lot of our professional positions, the teachers' positions especially. A lot of our teachers have been retiring, so we are replacing those positions with incoming teachers that are coming to us at a lower steps. So the favorable variance on that has helped us not, that the increase is not as large as in prior years. If you turn to the second page, like Sue always says, I'm a visual person, so it's easier for me to see it in a consolidated way this way. So basically, 43% of our budget is salary, is the salaries for our employees. 27% is the benefits for our employees. So that's basically 70% of our budget is our personnel budget. 30%, which is $30 million, is our operating budget.
On the other side of the pie graph page, Maria's put together a line graph as well for those of us who are visual. And you can see the big bar there. So the good news, I guess, is that the union has come to an agreement, and that'll be a special article. So that's not obviously reflected in the number you see before you, and that'll be added in should it pass the taxpayers. We are supposed to be meeting with the school board about any other warrant articles and have a discussion. I forget the date we had proposed for that.
Yeah, the
14th, Carrie? Yeah,
That's
14th.
Thursday the 14th.
Yeah, that, where we might have a discussion about our joint interests at this point. They're coming to our meeting, I believe. So here's where we're left. You see the proposed last week, last time we met, Maria gave us the default number, which is higher.
So it's not higher than this proposed, it's low, it's $600,000. The default budget is $600,000 lower than this proposed budget. It's a 2.9% increase from last year. So we're within $580,000 difference between the two budgets. Now again, this includes everything, all the requests that were presented to you.
So here's a dilemma. Still need to do some thinking, looking at some of the numbers here. Do we have any suggestions or requests that we can make to Maria and the superintendent about making any changes to the numbers we've reviewed? Liz?
I appreciate everything you all do, I appreciate what the teachers do. And I believe that when some of our communities opened up their tax bills, and we understand where that came, there was some concern with the cost, and there are some people that are going to be able to afford the increase. And, it's for the schools, it's for the towns, it's up for our communities. There are going to be some people who are living paycheck to paycheck, and they're going to have to decide, pay their taxes, pay their mortgage, food, medication. We have families who are struggling with foreclosure, looking for jobs. We need to be mindful of them, and we also have people who are on fixed budgets, and how are they going to pay for a lot of this? And I just want to ask you to take a hard look of true wants and true needs. And I think if we really need it, then we need to get it. But if it's something that we can put off for a year, and so it's going to shake down in Concord, which it could be a couple of years, or let our tax bills and the situation settle out and the economy settle out a little, I would appreciate that. I'm asking because I've gotten phone calls. I've been stopped at Market Basket, craft fair over the weekend. And I think we need to be mindful of our community and where they are at right now, economically. We are asking for social workers, and I understand what they do. And I'm picking on them because it popped in my head, but, can we go another year with what we have, and next year, and then kind of work our way into that, and not like just a big hit. I agree with the uniforms, like 30 years my kids wore those. And the black concert uniforms, we used to call those the freaking frocks in our house because you could roll them up and shove them away, and they do need some updating. But I don't know if that's gonna be a warrant article.
So the uniforms are gonna be a warrant article, is that right? Is that what you've decided? The band uniforms?
They are?
Currently, right now, it's
Right.
listed as a
Right.
warrant, but I know
Okay.
there's more discussion to come at the board level.
Yeah, so they haven't
Okay.
decided that, and the dresses were already in last year's,
Right.
and they're being purchased, so I hear what
So-
you're saying, I don't wanna
so-
confuse the public.
Right, I
think
understand,
we're-
but, right, so I wasn't here for the music thing last year, I came in after that. So I just want us to be mindful of where our taxpayers are at in this point in time. That's all I'm asking.
So thank you, Liz, for bringing this up.
You're welcome.
because this is where I was going to address the same topic. And I think everything that you said was spot on with which was what I was going to say. So I will start by saying I appreciate all the efforts. I think our staff and our administration, your team are doing an outstanding job. I don't think the requests that have come in front of us for the last 3 months are unrealistic. I think they presented thoughtful and meaningful budgets. But this is the part that comes to me, because as Liz mentioned, from my social networks, I'm also hearing from the people in my community, and they're going like, wow. So we hear a lot from the schools, I'll say our administrators, our department heads, and they give us their wants. So we're hearing a very one-sided view because we don't have the community coming in here telling us what they want. We have the administrators, which is nice. And I think what really happens when we went to go vote last year, we get a group of people, and that's why things passed. And so I think a lot of the people that might, I'm making an assumption here, a lot of people that may be shocked on their bills, maybe they did not go vote. But I think what's going to happen now is they got their bill, and I've been saying this for a long time, it's a perfect storm. We're gonna go through the budget season, and whatever we go ask them for at the public hearing and deliberative, they're faced with a December 1 tax bill. Then they're gonna go Christmas shopping. They're gonna get their credit card bill in January when we do our public hearing, our deliberative session. And depending on who goes in that booth, they're gonna go like, there's not enough money to go around. So I, as sitting here, I have to look to the responsibility to give the school what's fair, but I also have to be fair to the community members, especially my town, since they put me here in this seat. So for us to go nickeling, diming and saying, don't go buy these crayons and don't go buy that paper, I think it's micromanaging their job. If I was going to make a suggestion, it would be, as Sue said, so what can we do for this budget? I personally don't think it has much value to go into the voters and say, here's your proposed and here's your default and have a spread of $500,000. It's noise. It really doesn't matter. The school's not going to get rich or poor off of a small spread. I think it would be better to put in front of the voters a big spread. Now, what is big? Big is a subjective term. I'll throw out a number. I'm just making up 5 million. You put in front of the voters the $5 million difference, they have something to think about. Do I want to give the school this much or this much? The difference between $500,000 isn't going to change anybody's taxes. The difference of, I'll say, several million will change somebody's taxes. It will also help down the road, the offset, because if they go up 3%, they're going up 3% of 85 versus 90. I'm watching what I'm hearing from the residents, and I want to give them a choice that can make a difference. $500,000 is not going to make a difference to the taxpayers. So I guess what I'm going to say is, after some discussion, I would like to get our administration kind of with this board to say, we want you to go look for this amount of money. And so the question is, what does that board think for this amount of money? But I'm telling you, $500,000 is, it's a nice effort, but your tax bill is going to change by, $50. It's not going to do anything. So if you can't afford it, if we have residents that are struggling, as Liz said, we're all struggling a little bit more than we were in the past. You need to give them a bigger difference. Otherwise, it really doesn't make a difference. $500,000 isn't going to do anything.
Well, the default budget's nothing we control, that's
Correct.
all, right?
Right.
That's all calculated. You've heard that number last week.
Mhm.
This is the budget we have some control over. So you've got a 3.6% increase.
Mhm.
What does this board suggest we do? Ask Maria and Justin to go back and shave 1% off? There's it's minimal.
Can you say, where's the default on here? Is it,
It's.
not this 90.1?
It's in the packet from
It's in the
last time.
packet from last time, it's not in.
Okay.
This is just
Can
the-
you just say it out loud? Roughly, what's that?
The difference between the two of them is 580,000, and it's a 2.9% increase. So,
So they're 580 above our proposed.
is,
The default
the
is
increase for the default is 2.5 million.
89,607,565. That was what you gave us last week.
Yeah, it's 2.5 million increase instead of the 3.1.
And this is, so that's a 2.99% increase in the default, and the proposed is. Proposed
90.1?
is
3.6.
3.6%.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can't change the default number.
No, we can't. So, look, I'm just gonna throw it for conversation and just humor me with a what if.
Can
As
you
I
get
mentioned,
it down so that both numbers are the same? That's,
We could, but my position is, it's not up to me how we prioritize the needs of this district, right? So I could tell you, like we have heard from the administrators and the people in charge of these programs, what it is. I cannot go and tell Kelly, well, special education is different, but I cannot go and tell the high school that their program is less important than the program in the middle school. I cannot go and tell Ginger that those two social workers that she's looking for, and we can have them right now. Like I don't. It's not in my position or my authority to say
Whose
what we need
authority
or
it
what.
is?
So is
It's
that
not
ours?
ours.
We just voted on
I-
them.
I don't think it's an ours either, to be honest with you.
But we voted on, you know,
we voted
a
on
bunch of
what?
them.
So
Well, like, we voted on the security, like the
No,
increase
no,
that
we
we had.
didn't.
Like,
We didn't vote on
We
it.
voted to say that we were gonna just
You at least
go
reviewed
over
it. We
it.
have not accepted any budget.
So is that what we
Or
do
this
now? We
budget.
go over the two
We're talking
security,
about it.
well, that's what I'm, if we wanna get money, there's two security, there's two social workers,
So
there's
you're
an
talking about personnel.
there's an iReady program that Karen and I have been talking to a lot of people in town about that program.
So iReady is on here for
iReady's
what?
a lot of money.
70,000?
75,000.
There's, I don't know,
Lots of
the
access
athletic
fees.
budget is bigger, we were crunching numbers too, the athletic budget is bigger than I think all the elementary schools, or was it just the Sandown elementary schools? I don't.
That's why we had
So-
Terry put this.
Here so maybe that is what we start doing, is crunching these numbers, because we're all hearing from our people.
In this longer paper where
Right.
Kelly has been adding the positions, she separated it to she put a total of the new
Yeah.
positions, then a total of the existing positions increase, and then the total of the supplemental increase. So if you
All the
see,
elementary schools.
the new positions is $455,000 for the 6.5 positions that have been requested, so.
I mean, there are places, yeah, they could go back and trim and say, okay, Max Sherwood, your school board line of 359,000, you need to trim that down. And that's probably a lot of legal fees. But you're negotiating contracts, so they've got reasons why they put it up that high.
Hey, Sue,
No, go right ahead, sir.
what I hear Mike saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, sir, is that the difference between the default and the proposed right now is inconsequential in terms of the taxpayer.
Right.
You wanna give them a different stark choice, and you are looking to add money, whatever that is, to hear from us about what would those needs be.
What do you mean? So I'm with you, I just lost that last part. Add money?
You want the choice to be very stark in front of the voters.
I do.
So what do you need from us in terms of helping, and what I heard you opening is conversation around that end?
It is, so I'm proposing a concept, an idea. As I mentioned before, it's just what you said.
Yeah.
To go to the voters with a small difference really doesn't help if any of you folks are hearing from your community, a small difference of 580,000 isn't going to show them any relief. They're gonna struggle either way. So what I'm proposing for discussion is, what if there was a bigger difference? Where would it come from? I don't have your answer. I would put the burden of responsibility on our professionals that we, pardon me?
Not us.
Yeah, I can't say this program, not that one.
Right.
Because nobody knows it better than our
Right.
top administrators. That's why we hired these professionals. They're good at it.
But like Maria said, she's not, because she's not these people. So then it go back, like she's not the head of special ed, who knows what she
Maria
needs.
can say that, but Maria knows that budget better than we do, and she's in a better close contact with every presenter that we have seen. Her and her team scrutinize those numbers a lot more, and I think more effectively than we do. And I'm not taking away anybody's stuff, but this is what she does all day long. She does a great job. And this isn't to say that they're not doing a great job. I'm just saying, if we're going to tell Justin and Maria to try and reach this number, what number would you come up with? I'm saying $500,000's a waste of their time.
So we're discussing a lot here. So what I would recommend is we say to Justin and Maria, are you gonna have a leadership meeting between now and the next time we meet? So can we have a could you have a conversation and say, okay, this is what we're hearing at the budget committee level. Can we figure out how to make it so it's not going to be either a huge hit to our taxpayers and our supporters, or do what Michael's asking, or come together and say, here's the budget, this is what each individual warrant article is going to cost us, and this is what the tax impact, because I hear what you're saying, but then when you put all of those warrant articles together, then you get a totally different number when it goes up to the state to be calculated.
Sure.
So I think that's the picture we need to give the taxpayers this year. The budget and the warrants. We need to pass a teacher's contract. We need to have our communities support our teachers. And to me, that should be the only other warrant article that we're voting on in March.
But we don't control that.
But we don't control that. We do not control that. So that's just my 2 cents. Ask our leadership team to have the conversation of, okay, this is what we're hearing, this is what our budget committee is hearing from their communities. We need to come back with something that may help our communities pass what we need to have passed.
I'm just saying, every family out there has got a family budget. They have to budget for everything, medicine, food, you name it, car payments, mortgage. You cannot spend more than you make. Unless you want to go on credit card debt, but you can't do it. So you have to live within your budget. So whatever number we pass off to our administrators, they will find a way to make it work. There's a lot of wants. I'm not really disputing any of the wants and needs that they say they're requesting, but at the same time, I'm looking to present to the taxpayers some form of relief.
Now, I'm usually fiscally conservative. I could come up with a bunch of things that I think are ridiculous on here. I agree. But I just want to point out, earlier you asked questions about why is our special ed department kind of tanking now, right? Less interest in people, right? And then when you think about maybe in the past, I don't know how the budget has been, but the making do with what you have might not get us with the highest quality education. So I'm sure they can make do, but are they going to make do in a way that is going to make this a district that people want to move to and have their kids educated in, or are they just making do? Just putting that out there also. I don't know what the regular inflation rate is, but if we aimed for a smaller percentage or closer to a balanced budget, I don't think knocking off a ridiculous amount of money to give somebody an option to say, I don't have a kid in the school, I don't really care, I'm going to vote for this one that's ridiculously lower, is probably not the most effective way of continuing our, school in an upward trend here.
And when just devil's advocate here, right, we're looking at this 3.1, right? $1 million of that is what we're contracting for special ed, right? So it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Because if we cut some of the resources to be able to fund this department, to get it up to the staffing and get rid of that extra $1 million we're spending every year, so it's a
Only
double-edged
coming from the
sword,
other
right?
schools, it's not coming from that budget.
Yeah, so
That's right.
it's a double-edged sword, you know, if we cut this now, then we're gonna continue this $1 million this year, this next coming year, and then what's it gonna increase to for contracted services the following year, right? Because we don't have what we need to, I'm just using that one particular number. If we cut here and there, the small things, I mean, there's definitely things that don't necessarily need to be in here, you know, but on the flip side of that, there's not any school living in luxury either, you know what I mean? We're not, I don't think anyone came with anything, besides iReady, I'm with you with iReady. I don't think anyone came with anything crazy, right? And so I think we just have to make sure we make that decision on what we're cutting, that we're making sure we're not burning one bridge to kind of pass another bridge and
That's
carry it
problem.
over.
Which is gonna create more of a staffing issue, because if you're in a school where either you feel like you need a security guard, it's not safe, or a, behavior specialist, and you're not supported because they don't have those roles, that's affecting every other staff member also, which our turnover rate doesn't need to increase any more than it is, you know?
And I'm very cognizant of all the new people that have bought in our areas, right? Like, who have, you know, there's a lot of new building in my area, right? When I bought in Danville, it was a great time for me to buy, right? All these other people are buying at $700,000-$800,000, right? So they're kind of stuck in their homes, right? So I'm very cognizant of those people that now can't turn around and they can't sell. So by no means am I sitting here saying let's keep adding the tax bill. I'm just saying, like, we kind of have to make sure we're not, you know, robbing Peter to pay Paul and just carrying it, you know, and creating more of a mountain at the end.
I think no matter what this board decides, whether we fully fund the budget or we don't, it's an imperfect system until the state fixes what's broken. So the school can get, I'll say, our current proposed, and they could live still kicking the can down the road, or they can take a hit. But either way, somebody is going to feel the pain. The taxpayers will feel the pain more if we give the schools what's currently presented, and if we cut back on the school budget, the school's gonna feel more pain. Somebody's gonna feel the pain.
I think we're all feeling pain. Equal. I think the schools feel pain too.
It's just a matter of where do you wanna place the pain? That's what I'm telling you, because there's not enough money to go around. And it's not that the school's not doing a good job. It's not the schools asking for anything that don't really deserve. The problem is the way the state does its tax base. But we're not gonna fix that tonight.
And I do agree with that, but I also do have kids on every level, right, of the schooling from elementary, middle to high school, and see significantly how things have changed, right, and decreased in education and just the days, and how, you know, staff is robbing Peter to pay Paul just to get through a day, right? So, you know, that's why I'm saying we're all feeling the pain, because it's happening in those buildings. It's happening within those four walls. It's happening to these little kids. You know, we have these kids in 3rd, 4th grade who are our COVID kids, right? Who are suffering the most because they got displaced in pre-K, right? They skipped this whole generation, and now they've come in to not the same level of education. They've come in to kind of getting shuffled around just to cover things, right? To having a teacher that may have skipped their lunch today so that they could stay and, you know, cover a classroom, which does affect a teacher too, right? So we're definitely not, it's definitely hurting in the schools between the four walls of all the levels, straight up.
Well, that's where we're at. We're either gonna ask our administration group to go back and see what else they could shave out of here.
I think.
Or think about it some more and come back when we meet again with anything. I'm really opposed to nickel and diming it, you know, iReady, security camera, meal for athletes who deserve to be honored. You know, we could go around and around, and it amounts to nothing.
By
It's
4 times.
really, and I've learned in my 75 years of life, I know I don't look 75, but that petty, I don't want to be left with a petty feeling. That's petty to say, they get a kidney-shaped table, that's what, and you don't. And Maria doesn't want, it ends up being Maria's job to do that, it really does.
So I couldn't agree with you more. For us to go do what Sue just mentioned, it's not the right thing to do. I think this board should give a direction and a magnitude to administration. We can still go home and scrub on our own. That's, I think, Plan A, and then there should also be a simultaneous Plan B to direction and magnitude for our administration.
Jules?
I just had one other question to try to take into consideration, and I don't know where that stands. Maria, on the $25 million line of credit, what do you foresee? I don't know if I missed it. I watched the last meeting. I wasn't here, but what do you anticipate for drawing on that in the next year? Because that also, if there are a lot of things that are in the works there, and we plan to use that money, you know, if we decide we're going and spending 20 million next year, all of what we're talking about doesn't really matter because the taxes are going to go up from that, but.
That would not affect the taxes because the lease payment is already in the budget.
But it's,
So it
don't we
doesn't-
only pay on what we've drawn on?
Right, but the total payment for the lease was added to the budget last year, which is $2 million. So that's the total payment. When we finally borrow the 25 million, that's what our payment will do. Until we borrow the 25, any money remaining of that, like this year, we don't have a payment at all, but the 2 million is, so those 2 million are going directly back to the taxpayers.
Okay,
Because we're not
Okay.
using it.
all right, I wasn't
The
sure how
next
that.
year, we have the first payment, which is only on the $3 million that we borrowed this year. So it's again not gonna be the $2 million, we're probably gonna have $1.7 million to give back to taxpayers again.
Okay.
This year, we're planning to borrow about 9 million, we have a cap of 10 million. So we're planning to borrow another 9 million this year, which the payment won't be until the 2026 year. So
doesn't
we're a
show.
year behind on the payments. The
Alrighty.
$2 million for the payment is already in the budget, but because we're not gonna use it, the full 2 million, that is automatically going back to taxpayers at the end of the year.
But she has to show it in the budget.
But it is part of the budget. We cannot take that out of the budget because it was voted into and we need
Right.
it at the end of the lease.
So 2 million is the amount if you were to borrow the whole 25 million.
Right, which is what could put it in
And
the
that's in the budget.
So this year, in June, that whole 2 million is going back to taxpayers
Right.
because we don't have a payment this
I'm
year.
with you.
Back to the overlay.
Okay,
So in Julie's case, you wouldn't, even if they borrowed money, it's not gonna go up because it's already
It's not in.
factored in
it's
there.
already
It's
been,
not-
it's already been.
factored in, we're not double dipping here.
All right, all right.
It won't be like a +1.
It was one.
Yeah, it's just.
So what? Plan A, tell them now to go back and scrub a little. Plan B, we think about it another week and come back with an A and a B.
It's not good anyway, you look at it.
My personal preference would be the Plan A. I think for us to go scrubbing, we can get some magnitude here. I think you can probably come up with a million pretty easy.
Yeah.
Me personally, I would like to see our administration do the course scrubbing and come back to us. Go ahead, ask me for how much.
No, I was gonna, I think through that myself. I would not want to give them a figure. I don't wanna say, I want them to see what they can come up with.
So I would respectfully kind of disagree, because if we just say, go try, and they come back next week and they say, we took off $100,000.
I don't, okay.
So I'm just saying, we should give them some guidance. It doesn't have to be exact, but I think this board should give them a guide that says,
But then we are asking for the nickel and diming.
No, we're not.
Because, well, if we say we want
Take
another.
$1 million off.
Yeah, we want
Oh,
another
percentage.
500,000 off, okay,
3%.
so we're gonna take this here, we're gonna, cause they're gonna have to nickel dime some
that's it.
areas to, if we say we want another $500,000 off, right? Then they're gonna have to nickel dime to make that $500,000. If we say, hey, you know what, can you guys just take one more look at it and see what can we, like, let's take this and then something else, and you know, what could we do without it, and see what it is, and
Yeah,
see
are
if,
those heating
you know.
bills realistic? Are the electrical bills realistic? Are the health benefit prediction really gonna happen? Are there little places you can, right, instead of taking off,
Can I ask another clarifying question? This meeting with the school board, is that when we'll talk about the warrants?
Yeah.
So what do we know right now?
we don't know anything, other than we know the
Contract and the,
teacher contract, we don't know the
and
figures.
the band uniform.
Well, that was what was in discussion, when the band,
No,
when music
okay.
came in, he said, I'm gonna put that on a special
Do you
article,
think
I
there's
was quite
like
surprised.
10 or like
All the warrants have been to the school board meetings in the last 3 meetings. This next one on the 7th will be the 4th time, and then the 5th time will be at the end of the month. They're listed now as some are listed as optional as in terms of discussion. Some are locked in because they're just orders of business that aren't cost items. But you can see all the language of that stuff in those school board
Okay.
packets for sure.
They're in the school board packet, which if we can get her. if she
Absolutely.
wants it.
I'm just thinking, I'm picturing people because everybody's so strapped. No. And that's what I'm worried about too, right? Like, I don't know.
All right, hearing other discussion, I'm gonna make a motion that we direct the superintendent and the business administration office to relook at this total budget and come back to us next meeting with some changes. And we are hoping for, my motion would be some significant changes that we can see for our next meeting. That's my motion.
I'll second it for discussion.
Martha seconded my motion. Carrie and Heather, you basically got that.
So,
Discuss-
Sue,
go
correct me, okay, Julie.
Well, if you seconded that, and we're discussing it,
We are discussing it.
I think that that's too vague. I think that we've
So
gotta
would you
be
like
a
to make an
little-
amendment?
No, I'd like to discuss making an amendment.
Okay,
I
make it.
think that we should have a percentage, something for them to be shooting for, instead of just saying, you know, because basically they're going in blind, going like, all right, well, where do we start? We don't even have any idea of what we are thinking. So I think that we need to define that a little more.
Ladies before gentlemen,
I,
even though I had my hand first.
you can go,
No,
sir.
go.
Liz, you have the floor.
Thank you, ma'am. I think what we need to do is say what are true needs this year. And what are some of those things put in there that are a need/want, and can we push it out another year? Because, what's gonna benefit our students that they need this year? Versus, okay, this is a need/want, like, and I'm just gonna pick on it, iReady, do they need it? Do you want it or do they need it? I understand the rationale behind iReady, and I'm just picking on that. Because I've had conversations with Sandy Lear about it. So if we have something I noticed when the elementary schools were here. So do they need, between two schools, $8,000 for their building supplies for two schools, where then three schools only have $3,000 combined? So I'm just picking on those things. It's not something, that's a nickel and dime thing. So, needs and wants. We need mops. We need cleaning supplies. We need the crayons. We need the pencils. We need the paper. What do your administrators, say, well, I could use this. This would be nice, versus that's where I'm coming from.
I have to wait.
I'm also letting people digest. Mr. Mascola, the chair recognizes Mr. Mascola.
So I see great value in both of your comments. Julie's kind of saying a magnitude and Liz is saying a priority list. So what if we went to our administration, we gave them a piece of each. We said, listen, go after this amount, whether it's a percent or dollars, and when you make that list, present to us, prioritize it so we can see it. So let's say you give them a number of, come up with $1,000, and they come up with 10 items. They can show us this one costs 200, this one, and then we can see that prioritized list that Liz just mentioned. We'll have a quantity magnitude that Julie mentioned, and you get them both done on a report that they would present to us and say, look, if I took your request and did this much money, these are all the items, then you can look at them. And then we can all choose and say, yes, no, and pick and choose. By doing both of what they said combined.
Well, I just pilled out the CIP request. Mr. Henderson proposed that. It's all facility stuff. That's $1.5 million. We have the ability to say, we don't want that. Or they have the ability, or we can give them the ability to say, yeah, they gotta go back and if this is too high. I'm not saying I care one way or the other. I mean, I do care, but, we've got some of that ability. You can control those capital projects. That takes it out of the budget, but it's $1.5 million. Some are needed things and some are wants. They absolutely are. So the proposal on the floor is to give them some space. Does anyone want to make an amendment? Go ahead, Mike.
I would like to make an amendment to your motion that would give direction to our administration to go after about 5%, $4.5 million, in, I'll say, cuts or savings, and put it into a prioritized list to present to us.
5 million? Is that what you just said? 5 million, I'm writing.
5%, $4.5 million.
4.5%.
4.
That's what you said, yeah.
4.5 million?
4.5 million or 4.5%?
I just
You said 5%, 4.5 million,
Yes.
but that's what I wrote.
4 to 5,
just say 5%.
5% of the total proposed budget?
For the proposed?
Put it into a prioritized list. And when it comes back, we can say, oh my goodness, this is horrible, but we can then choose. So that would be my motion.
5% of 86 million is how many?
No, 90 million.
90
million.
$4.5 million.
That's why I said 4.5
Okay.
million, which is
Okay.
5%.
That's assuming there's a lot of wants, yeah.
I know, I'm like,
That's not
okay,
a lot
let's
of
see,
want.
so the
That's-
special ed, where could she cut 5%? Cause nowhere.
I know.
So.
No, it's
Yeah.
not, it won't be even, gang. It won't
No,
be
that's what I'm
everybody
saying.
takes a
Well,
hit.
so that's what I'm just saying,
No,
I was
no,
just
no.
saying, so she's not cutting anything, cause legally she can't, right?
So I think she is,
And
but
then,
Salaries you can't,
salary we can't, right? So then,
benefits you can't.
so
Right.
then we can't here,
Yes.
right? So I'm just like, so it's probably more like 10 to 15 at each of the schools, if they could just cut it.
And even then, if you look at some of these budgets.
I personally think that the leadership team needs to come together with whatever our directive is and figure it out. We can't say that, and I trust Justin and Maria to say, okay, this is the
Here. Oh, no, thank you so much.
marching orders, for lack of a better term, and do the best that you can do with your leadership team. Where can we make some savings this year?
So Michael's made an amendment at 5%, come back with a priority list. We have we need a second for his motion, for his amendment. then we're gonna vote on the amendment. So just Mike having a second.
I'll second that.
Julie's making the second. Any other discussion on the amendment? On the
So
amendment.
the amendment is an overall 5% or each overall?
It's overall, he is
Okay.
overall.
Okay, not each person coming up with 5%, so then
No,
they can sit there
that'll
and
be-
argue with each.
Because we
with
give them
where
a
that's
borrow
coming
line
from.
budget.
Yeah.
So I just want to recap what was just said. So you want us to come up with a list of $4.5 million of cuts that we can make out of the budget
And put it
and
on
put it
in a
and
priority.
prioritize it.
That's what I made my motion for, yes.
So we understand the motion, no, the amendment to my motion. The amendment. I'm gonna call for a vote. All in favor of Michael's motion? One.
I'm like, I need to
I'm
think.
teetering. I think the 4.5 million is too high.
All right, so vote no then.
I'm
All right,
voting
I'm
no.
calling a vote. Hello? All in favor of Michael's motion? Amendment, I'm sorry, amendment. 2, opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4, abstaining. 1. So the motion the amendment, fails. We're back to my original motion. Which is, can you kind of, Carrie or Heather or somebody, read that back to us sometime tonight?
I think I have. I come back with the significant changes that we can see on the budget for next week. That was,
The language was significant change.
That's right. So that's the motion that's on the floor for discussion before I call for a vote.
So I would, because I do believe that they need some guidance as to what we're looking for, I would like to make a motion to amend to $2.5 million.
2.5 million?
Yeah, with that priority, just to give you some guidance as to what we're looking for.
2.5 million, and a priority list for our next meeting.
I think that's a little bit more workable and doable.
Discussion?
I was gonna second
Oh,
the
a
motion.
second, Mike's is
Thank you, sir.
seconding. Any discussion of Liz's amendment to 2.5 and a priority list for our next meeting? Mike?
I think
So
it's a
then-
great starting point.
When we receive the list, right, then are we gonna re-vote on each thing and expect them to come, to use that new budget? Are we gonna now go through there to decide if they, what if they can't come up with that many,
Then we're gonna listen to them.
you know?
We'll have to listen to what they have.
Spending a whole lot of time going through this,
Yeah.
and, are we gonna change?
I don't know.
every one of it,
I
you
think
know?
when you hear what they've come up with, then you're gonna have to go back and think through it.
Then we'll
That's-
have to make some decisions.
Gonna have to make some decisions.
It'll never be easy.
No,
is this going to be proposed for review on December 11th?
Correct. We have to keep moving.
Right.
We're gonna run out of time. Not doing what happened last year, we're at the 11th hour.
Right.
We were all sitting here shocked at the total. You all were like, like I thought the room was gonna explode. Nobody realized it was gonna be that much money, and then we have run out of time. We still have time. I hope. Okay, so the amendment,
You need to vote on Liz's
Justin,
amendment.
did you have something to add to the amendment discussion? Right, I'd like to vote on the amendment, Liz's amendment to ask the administration to go back with 2.5 million in a priority list with significant changes, we hope, for December 11th for our discussion. So we're gonna vote on that. All in favor of Liz's motion? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Opposed? 1, 0. All right, the amendment passes. So now we have an amended motion, and that amended motion is essentially what I just said, to ask the administration to go back to the drawing board, looking for 2.5 million, make a priority list. We need to make some headway here and bring it back on the 11th for our discussion. All those in favor of the motion? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 opposed? Abstaining?
So, do we already vote on it?
Yeah, we're just.
No, we voted on the amendment.
Okay,
Okay,
We're
yeah.
voting on the
Sorry.
main.
okay.
We
The
got
main,
confused.
do you wanna read, can we redo the vote? Is everybody okay with that? They didn't understand. So now we are back to the motion of
Okay.
amended by Liz,
Mhm.
that we would ask them to go, make those changes at 2.5 million, come back next week or the 11th with a priority list. Okay?
Mhm.
I'll call for a vote again. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 opposed. 1, 0. You guys have it. If there is no other business to come before us, except to say,
It's always me.
you have other business?
No, I have I'm not gonna make it here on the 11th.
Yes.
I just told you, Maria, I'm not gonna be here. Is it possible if I could remote in?
Yes,
Can you get request?
we absolutely
We
can,
can work that
we
out,
can work
right?
that out. Dean,
Dean?
wherever in the world he is.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere good.
I'm not here the 11th either.
Just
I take
remember
it
that meeting is on a Monday,
That's a Monday. So Sabrina's not gonna be here.
so
What?
The 11th is my 30th wedding anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Sabrina
Happy
isn't gonna be,
anniversary.
you know how many meetings I've been on my anniversary, my child's birthday, my own birthday.
I'll probably.
Sabrina's not gonna be here, Mike's not gonna be here, Mark's not gonna be here, anybody else who knows off the top of their head.
I'll be
We
late.
need to make sure, we were a little scary tonight, we weren't gonna have a quorum. Now we're getting down to it here. I'm teasing you, do
I
what
know.
you need to do.
So that's a Monday?
It's a Monday night.
I also want to introduce you all to Heather Greenland,
Field.
Greenfield, I'm so sorry, I'm tired. Heather Greenfield, Heather actually works with us currently in our HR department. She had applied for Carrie's position last week and she accepted the position this week. So Heather will be our budget committee recording secretary. So all the communications you're gonna are gonna come from her. She will be sending you tomorrow an email, so you all can have her contact information.
Yeah, so look for that email, it'll be different than Carrie's.
Yeah,
So
Welcome.
welcome aboard, Heather, and this is Carrie's final meeting. And again, we wish you best of luck and we appreciate everything you've done. Heather, you have to keep including the food, our little charcuterie
Speaking of the budget.
food. Yes, it is in the budget. Oh, yes, it's in the budget. I can find it if you want me to look for it. And thank you, Dean, for that picture. He showed the board of food. And happy Thanksgiving to all the Timberlane communities. Safe holidays, safe weekend, and we'll see you back here in December. Good night.
Thank you.
Sue, I just wanna just tell this board,